Truth or Fate means Vedika Bahel over by the big board. A very good evening to you, Vedika. Great to see you. There's been a major development in the sphere of fact-checking, and as you are a resident fact-checker, you're here to tell us more about what's happened with Facebook and Instagram, or rather Meta, the company that holds these two. They've announced they're going to scrap its fact-checking program. It strikes me as a bit weird. Give us your sense of what this is going to mean.
Well, Mark, according to Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, the company will be rolling out a series of moderation policy changes regarding its fact-checking. And this will affect two of the world's largest social media platforms, that's Instagram and Facebook. Now, there is also Threads as well. And between the three of those, Meta has about 3 billion users across the globe. Now, the biggest change is that Meta will be ending its fact-checking partnership, its program with its trusted fact-checking partners, and it will be replacing that with something called Community Notes. Now, Community Notes is already rolled out on X by Elon Musk. It is a community-driven system where it is, in fact, the app's users that highlight and flag any misleading posts. Now, some other changes that will be made by Meta. There will also be the moving of its moderation teams from California to Texas, and this is because they say it's to have less concern about bias. Meta will also be removing restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that it says are out of touch with mainstream discourse, and it would also be rolling back limits on how much politics-related content that users can see. Now, in a video post online, Zuckerberg actually pointed to the US election as being an influence on this decision that Meta's made. He criticized what he called governments and legacy media for allegedly censoring more and more, and he said he now wants to pivot back to Meta's roots, which is prioritizing free speech. Now, all of this comes as tech firms are preparing for Donald Trump to return to the White House later this month. Now, Trump has been a pretty vocal critic of Meta for the last couple of years. Just last year, he called Facebook an enemy of the people on Truth Social. But this relationship does seem to be warming, if not thawing. Zuckerberg was seen having dinner with Trump at Mar-a-Lago just last November. Meta has also donated $1 million to Trump's inaugural fund, and there have been some new appointments to Meta's board as well, which people who are allies of Donald Trump. Now, Meta has said that this policy change, this moderation change, will be starting in the US. We'll have to keep an eye on that and to see whether that rolls out any further, Mark.
Sounds like it's money that talks and it's truth that might be the biggest victim. For those who don't use X, for instance, or are unfamiliar with Community Notes, give us a description of what that actually is.
Well, Mark, that is a good question. Meta's current system refers any false or potentially misleading posts to its independent fact checkers, and they're the ones that assess the credibility. So partners like the Associated Press, Snopes, PolitiFact, for example. And anything flagged as misinformation can then display a clear label with more information on it for users, or it could in fact even descend lower down on users' social media feeds. Now, as for Community Notes is a system that Elon Musk rolled out on X back in 2021, and how it works is that it's users themselves that highlight those out of context, misleading or fake posts, and then they add links or sources at the end to back up their correction. So theoretically, users across Meta, so Instagram, Threads, Facebook, will be able to highlight these posts that need more context instead of leaving it for external experts or external fact-checking organizations to do that instead. Now, as for why Facebook is making that change for users to do this instead of fact-checking organizations and experts, well, Meta says that it's because experts, like everyone else, have their own biases and perspectives, Mark.
So, Vedika, what are the risks with this change of approach?
Well, Mark, we will honestly just have to wait and see with the rollout and these changes. But of course, this does mean that any fact-checking and truth across Meta platforms do therefore rely wholly on user engagement and volunteers. And that might not always happen. People might not always engage in that. As for the Community Notes, in order to be visible, they actually have to gain votes by other users to therefore appear on the platform. They have to be voted on and approved, and that's how other users can see them. So there is a lot of dependency policies there. It's dependent on users to engage and correct and put the sources in and do all of that work, but also for other users to then engage with it and vote on it. In order for other users to be able to see that. Now, the Center for Countering Digital Hate, last year they analysed over 1 million community notes on X about the US election. And in their report findings, they found that 74% of the accurate community notes in the sample were not being shown to users. So things that had been corrected were not being shown to users. And they also found that, in fact, misleading posts that didn't have any community notes on them, so things that were falsehoods and hadn't been corrected, had amassed 2.2 billion views. So it does seem that there are ways for things to drip through the cracks with this approach. But as I said, Mark, we will just have to keep an eye on what this looks like overall going forward.